My friends, hear this. The road to greatness is not lined with golden bricks. It is carved out of stone, cut by calloused hands, forged in the fire of trial. Success does not come to the swift, nor to the strong, but to the steadfast. It comes to the one who, when all hope seems lost, still stands. When the winds howl, when the night is long, when the path is hidden in shadow, he does not quit. You see, destiny is not a matter of ease. It is a matter of resolve. The heroes of old, the men and women who changed the world, they knew how to fall, but more than that, they knew how to rise. The storm came, but they stayed. The fire raged, but they did not flee. The silence stretched for years, but they did not surrender. Why? Because deep within them was a whisper, like a still small voice, saying, "Do not quit, for what I began in you I will finish." Success is birthed in perseverance, not perfection. This truth is one of the great paradoxes of life. We often imagine success as the gleaming result of flawless execution, of getting everything right from the start, of walking a smooth road without stumble or scar. But the reality is far different. Success does not come to those who never fall, but to those who fall and rise again, those who fail forward, those who dare to persevere when everything around them says quit. Perfection is a mirage. It calls to us with the illusion of control, with the promise that if we just get it all right, everything will work out. But those who chase perfection often find themselves trapped, paralyzed by fear, by comparison, by the belief that one mistake means disqualification. Yet those who understand perseverance know that the path to greatness is paved with mistakes, with flaws, with failures that become fuel. Consider the seed in the ground. It does not become a tree overnight. It breaks through soil, endures storms, grows through seasons of drought and cold. It is not perfect. It is persistent. The same is true of every person who has ever achieved anything lasting. Their victories were not handed to them. They were fought for in the dark, in the quiet, when no one was watching. And what kept them moving forward was not their talent, not their perfection, but their perseverance. Perseverance is the daily decision to keep going. It is showing up even when the results don't show up with you. It is choosing to believe there is a purpose, even when the process feels like pain. It is pressing on when motivation fades, when the crowd disappears, when the applause is gone, and all that's left is your faith and your feet. The perfectionist waits until the conditions are right. The perseverer starts where they are. The perfectionist is afraid to fail. The perseverer learns from failure and moves on. Perfection seeks approval. Perseverance seeks purpose, and it is purpose that endures. When you look at the lives of those who left a mark, whether in history, faith, art, science, or leadership, you will find not one without setbacks. They faced opposition, rejection, betrayal. They had every reason to give up, but they pressed on, they adapted, they grew stronger in the struggle. Their perseverance refined them in ways perfection never could. For in the struggle, they discovered who they were. In the process, they found their calling. In the pressure, they became unshakable. Success is not a moment. It is a pattern of movement, a rhythm of rising again and again, no matter how many times you are knocked down. The world may celebrate the moment of arrival, but heaven watches the journey. The unseen battles, the private prayers, the long nights, the quiet tears. These are the unseen markers of true success, and all of them are born out of perseverance. There will be times when you feel behind, when you feel broken, when your progress seems invisible. But remember this, every step you take in perseverance is building something that perfection could never produce. Because perseverance shapes your character, your resilience, your depth. It prepares you to carry the very thing you are being called to steward. Breakthrough often lies just beyond the urge to quit. That urge, The voice that whispers you've done enough, that you've failed too many times, that you're not strong enough to continue, is often the final barrier before something shifts. It appears strongest when you're closest to something new being birthed. The closer you are to breakthrough, the louder the resistance becomes. And the reason is this: the enemy of your soul, the weight of your past, the discouragement of your present, they all know what lies on the other side if you keep going. There is a mystery in the moments when we feel weakest. It is in those moments that transformation is nearest. The mountain looks highest just before the summit. The night grows darkest before the morning. The battle rages fiercest just before the enemy retreats, but many never realize this because the pain of the moment convinces them that stopping is survival. They step away not knowing that one more push could have shattered the wall. One more step could have opened the door. One more day of standing could have changed everything. You may feel exhausted. You may feel unseen. You may feel like all your efforts are falling into silence, but often it is not the visible that signals change. It is the pressure, the intensity, the weariness. These things are not signs of failure. They are signs of birth. Just as a woman endures the final contractions before the child is born, so too we endure moments of intense struggle before our destiny breaks forth. The pressure is not to break you. It is to bring something out of you. Many give up not because they are weak, but because they do not realize how close they truly are. They turn back at the edge of breakthrough. They walk away from the field they've been plowing, not knowing that the harvest was almost ready. They abandon the prayer, the dream, the vision, because they listened to the voice of despair rather than the whisper of purpose. There is something sacred in persistence, not because it feels good, but because it defies everything that tells you to stop. It is an act of war against doubt. It is a declaration that you are not ruled by what you see, but by what you believe, and belief, true belief, presses forward even when the evidence says otherwise. It endures the silence, the closed doors, the rejection letters, the dry seasons, because it knows that many things shift invisibly before they are seen physically. The story of every breakthrough is a story of endurance. It is never clean, never quick, never simple. It involves valleys, detours, delays, and disappointment. But those who see it through are the ones who embrace the process. They don't stop when it gets hard. They dig deeper. They don't retreat when the voice of doubt rises. They lift their eyes higher, because somewhere deep inside they know the struggle itself is proof that something is changing. You don't feel resistance in a dead place. You feel it where there is life, where something is happening, where momentum is building. The pressure, the weight, the warfare, it all increases when something is about to break open. And that is why the urge to quit comes strongest at the point of breakthrough, because quitting then would steal the reward of all the pain you've endured. It would erase the progress made in the silence. It would forfeit the gift that was just about to be released. So the moment you feel you can't take another step, the moment the pressure feels unbearable, the moment giving up seems like the only option, remember, you may be standing at the edge of breakthrough. Refusing to quit is an act of faith in unseen promises. It is not merely an act of strength or determination. It is a declaration that what has been spoken, what has been placed deep within, is more real than what the eyes can see or the ears can hear. It is a decision that defies logic, a stand against the tide of doubt, and a commitment to walk a path that may have no visible end but is filled with divine purpose. Faith does not always look like triumph. Sometimes it looks like holding on when everyone else has let go. It looks like continuing the work when the results are invisible. It looks like praying when the heavens are silent, building when the ground is barren, believing when nothing around you changes. To refuse to quit is to say, I trust not in the moment, but in the one who gave me the vision. I trust not in the evidence, but in the promise that came before the evidence ever appeared. Every person who ever did something of eternal value had to walk through a season where they were tempted to quit. They faced obstacles that seemed insurmountable, opposition that was relentless, silence that stretched longer than expected. Yet what carried them through was not comfort or certainty, it was faith. The kind of faith that believes when nothing makes sense, the kind that holds the line when the battle seems lost, the kind that waits with hope even as the years pass by. Unseen promises are not just vague dreams, they are seeds planted by heaven. They may be hidden for a season, buried beneath the weight of life, under the soil of struggle. But to refuse to quit is to keep watering that seed. Every act of obedience, every moment of perseverance, every time you speak hope in the face of despair, you are declaring that what was spoken in secret will one day be seen in the light, that the unseen is not forgotten, that the delay is not denial. Faith in the unseen does not remove the pain of the journey. It does not promise smooth roads or instant answers. What it does is give you the power to endure. It gives you vision when your eyes grow weary. It gives you fire when your strength runs low. It anchors you in something deeper than circumstance, something eternal. And from that place, the refusal to quit becomes not just a choice, but a form of worship. A testimony that you believe God is still moving even when you cannot trace his hand. There are times when every outward sign will tell you to stop. Circumstances will scream, logic will argue, and even your own heart will tremble. But it is in those times that your refusal to quit becomes the loudest sermon. It declares, I am not governed by what surrounds me. I am led by what was spoken over me. I walk not by sight, but by the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. You may be walking through a season where the promise feels far, where the progress feels slow, and the burden feels heavy. But your stand in the midst of that storm is not in vain. Every step you take in faith is building something eternal. Every time you choose to believe instead of despair, you are aligning yourself with a higher reality. You are saying that the unseen promise is more real than the present struggle. You are testifying that what is coming is worth the wait, and that no amount of delay can erase what heaven has ordained. Failure is a stepping stone, not a final verdict. It is not the end of the story, but a part of the process. So often, people mistake failure for finality. They stumble, they fall, and they assume the journey is over. But the truth is, every great achievement is built upon the lessons of failure. It is not the absence of mistakes that leads to success, but the willingness to learn from them and rise again. Failure only becomes final when it is accepted as the last chapter, but those who keep going turn that chapter into a turning point. Every step forward often begins with a misstep. The most profound growth happens not in the ease of victory, but in the ache of defeat. When you fall, you come face to face with your limits, your pride, your fears, and it is in that place that transformation begins. The fire of failure burns away illusion. It reveals what is real, what is lasting, and what must change. That's why failure can be a gift in disguise. It strips away the superficial and forces you to go deeper. It teaches you things that comfort never could. Some of the most powerful lives in history were marked by repeated failures. They were rejected, overlooked, laughed at, and misunderstood. They knew what it meant to hit rock bottom. But instead of staying there, they built something from the dust. They used failure as a foundation, not a grave. Because failure is not the opposite of success, it is part of success. It is the training ground where resilience is forged, where humility is learned, where strength is born. When you begin to see failure differently, it loses its power to define you. It no longer becomes a source of shame, but a place of instruction. You begin to ask, what can this teach me, rather than what does this say about me. That shift in perspective is everything. It turns you from a victim of circumstance into a student of purpose. It transforms setbacks into setups, because with the right response, every failure becomes fuel. There is a kind of wisdom that only failure brings. It humbles you without crushing you. It refines you without destroying you. It reminds you that you are still growing, still becoming, still on the journey. The moment you decide that failure does not disqualify you is the moment you begin to walk in true authority. Because that decision allows you to move forward without fear. It frees you from the chains of perfectionism. It allows you to take bold risks, knowing that even if you fall, you will rise again stronger. Refusing to let failure define you is not denial. It is faith. Faith that what is inside you is greater than the obstacle before you. Faith that your calling was not canceled because of a mistake. Faith that your destiny is still intact. Failure might delay you, but it does not have the power to destroy what was meant for you unless you hand it that power. The decision to keep moving forward, to keep believing, to keep trying again, this is where the real battle is won. Sometimes the greatest breakthroughs come after the deepest disappointments. Sometimes it is the fall that reveals the strength within. Sometimes it is the closed door that leads you to the right one. And sometimes it is the failure that awakens you to a deeper purpose. You learn not just what you can do, but who you are. You realize that failure is not a mirror. It is a doorway, not a curse, but a compass. And with each step you take beyond it, you are walking not away from success, but toward it.